You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. This is season 3. It's episode 49. Cubs offense collapses versus the Cardinals. Don't forget, Crawly, to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on the socials. Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram. Fly the W, of course, we're on Facebook. Email us, flythew670@gmail.com. All right, Crawly, not exactly what we were hoping to have happen over the last couple of days at Wrigley, especially when the Cardinals are in town.
We talked about it when we made our predictions, and I said I'm not gonna go with this team. I can't predict the Cubs until I see something. And what I saw this weekend is what we've come to expect lately. Just absolutely, the offense is abysmal.
Terrible. The offense is absolutely terrible. I mean, we'll get into game one. I mean, they lost that one 3-0, and they had 3 hits.
Yeah,
3 hits on Friday after. It might have been the most boring Cubs-Cardinals game I can remember on a Friday at Wrigley Field. It was just awful.
Right, and they're just not a fun team to watch.
Right. They are not a fun team to watch. All right, so let's go through this one. This one had the weird start. Jordan Wicks was in for Ben Brown, and Jordan Wicks didn't really last very long. So this game was really weird.
Yeah, how does the season go from bad to worse? In his first start since coming back from the IL, right. Jordan Wicks had to leave in the second inning of the game with 1 on and 2 outs with a right oblique strain. So now the Cubs are down both of their young starters, Jordan Wicks, who is pitching for Ben Brown, who went on the IL. So we don't know when either of these guys are going to be coming back. So
really disappointing. Really disappointing.
Because they were 2 of the bright spots out of this season so far, and just frustrating. And so Kyle Hendricks, though, who's had the worst season of his career, he comes out of the bullpen where he's been like the last man on the bench there. And he gave his best performance of the season, and he's traditionally done well against the Cardinals.
Yeah, he was outstanding. He really was.
4 1/3 shutout ball. He gave up only 2 hits. This is what it was just a good confidence booster, hopefully, for Kyle. Like I said, the thing that helped is the wind was blowing in pretty hard that day.
Right.
So I think that's obviously going to help Kyle Hendricks. But again, he's always pitched well against the Cardinals. But the Cubs offense was completely stymied by Kyle Gibson. He pitched 7 shutout innings. He gave up 2 hits, 1 walk, and 6 Ks. Dustin, I mentioned the wind blowing in, and it just really affected the Cubs. In the bottom of the second, Ian Happ hit one 352 feet that was caught by Brendan Donovan. In the bottom of the 6th, Cody Bellinger hit one 357 feet that was caught by Alec Burleson. Each of them were caught at the wall. Any other day, they would have been home runs. Instead, Kyle Gibson again, 7 shutout innings with a 1-0 lead. Now, Luke Little comes into the game for the first time in over a week in the 7th inning. He strikes out 2 batters. He walks 1, but he gets out of the inning, no problem. Still 1-0 game. In the 8th inning, Hayden Wesneski comes in, and the first batter he faced, rookie Pedro Pages, in his 16th big league game. He has a 125 average. He hits his first big league home run to put the Cardinals up 1-0. Dustin, it was a basket shot, as we always say. The basket giveth and the basket taketh away.
Yeah, just too bad that happened. Just bad luck, I guess, right? I don't know what to make of it.
I mean, you have to hit when the wind's blowing in like that. You have to hit it. If you hit it too high, which the Cubs, unfortunately, they had 3 balls that looked like they were going to go out. They were both too high. That was the perfect home run, the perfect angle, and it just made it out in the basket. I mean, that was the 5th home run Hayden has given up in his last 9th appearance. So, again, cause for concern. Ryan Fernandez was first out of the pen for the Cardinals in the 8th. Michael Busch greeted him with the leadoff single. PCA came in, pinch run. He stole second and reached third on a Dansby ground out. So now you have 1 out, runner at third. Miguel Amaya up the bat. He hits one up past the mound. PCA, that was the old contact play, and Nolan Gorman made a great throw. PCA is called out at home. So,
can you tell me, though, can you try to explain this to me? I know they're trying to manufacture something, and that's what, so PCA steals second, gets over to third, 1 out, Amaya's up. Amaya's like barely hitting. Why would you pull that contact play with Amaya up? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
So let's go. PCA is one of the fastest guys in baseball. Miguel Amaya, again, if he strikes out or something, or something like that, then automatically that's 2 outs. Now you risk stranding that runner on third, and we know how the Cubs do with runners in scoring position. So you try to take it and you say, okay, Nolan Gorman, you make this very difficult play, and he threw a bullet right at the perfect spot. I mean, you hope that
I would have rather seen like a sacrifice bunt up the first base line or something. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it with him at the plate.
Maybe, I mean, he did what you wanted him to do, which was make contact. Unfortunately, Gorman.
How about get the ball past the pitcher? How about that? You know what I mean? Like put it out there a little bit. I'm just saying. I was really disappointed. I was just disgusted with that. Just absolutely disgusted.
It's a bang bang play. I would tell you that most managers would call for the exact same thing in the exact same situation. And again, everything has to be perfect. The throw has to be perfect. He has to pick it up perfectly. He has to transfer it, and he has to make the throw exactly in the right spot. And Gorman did all 3 things. It's just what happened. And so now, again, Amaya's now on first. Patrick Wisdom comes in to pinch hit for Mike Tauchman. He crushes one off the bat, 111 mile per hour exit velocity. And instead, Brandon Donovan catches it at the wall. I invite all of you. You can find this on Twitter. If you look, they did an animation, Stratcast 3D and Weather Applied. They put together all their info. The wind affected that ball by 62 feet, Dustin. It knocked it down by 62 feet. Had there been no wind on that day, it would have been on Waveland against the building. Yep. Instead, it's caught. And the reliever who threw it, Jojo Romero, he went to go get a new ball. There's 2 outs. He's going to the catcher. He knew it was gone. He goes to get the new ball, and then all of a sudden he has to do a double take, and the inning's over. Yeah. Even with that wind and where the ball landed, Dustin, that would have been a home run in 20 ballparks. Instead, it would have given the Cubs a 2-1 lead. Instead, it's just allowed out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Again, going back to what, bad luck, right? I mean, just bad luck.
It's unbelievable. I've never seen a team as snake bit as this Cubs team. I know they haven't played good, but I've also seen tons of plays where literally it looks like the ball should have been out. And again, guy hits a weak one that makes it into the basket. Another guy hits one that should have been down Kenmore, and instead it's an out. I mean, that's just the way it's been going.
And that's what Craig Counsell tries to sell us post game, that these guys they're going to come around. We are hitting the ball. We're trying to sell some type of hope here.
He's not wrong. It's just you can't keep going this route. I mean, it's how long are you going to wait?
Right, exactly. Well, we'll have to ask Jed Hoyer that.
Now, Colton Brewer came in. He gave up a double and a single, so he gives up 2 runs. The Cubs lose 3-0. Again, Dustin, you mentioned 3 hits. Mike Tauchman, Michael Busch, and Miguel Amaya all had 1 single. None of the other Cubs had a hit. No extra base hits.
No extra base hits. Just absolutely crazy. All right, let's move away from the game on Friday and move into one of the fun games of the weekend. That was on Saturday. Shota Imanaga was really good again.
Yep. Shota Imanaga versus Andre Payente. Shota makes his debut in the Cubs-Cardinals rivalry, and he did not disappoint. 7 innings, 1-run ball, gave up only 4 hits, no walks, 6 Ks. Despite all of that, the Cubs were facing an early 1-0 deficit. Top of the 4th, Alec Burleson would double and come around to score later in the inning on a Nolan Arenado sac fly. That put the Cards up 1-0. Dustin, on that play, that sac fly, PCA and Seiya collided pretty violently on that, and Seiya took the brunt of it. I noticed this isn't the first time to me that there's been a communication issue between PCA and Seiya. I need Seiya just to get out of the way and let PCA do the fielding in the outfield. I don't want to see any more Seiya drop balls. I don't want to see anything. I think that when PCA cuts really close behind the guy to back up the play, I think that throws Seiya off. The communication just doesn't seem really good to me, and I have not been impressed with Seiya Suzuki as an outfielder.
I think it's something that is a concern. I think you're right, and it's got to improve. No doubt.
I think anything to the right of that bullpen door, that's Seiya's ball. Everything else is PCA. The Cubs were able to answer right back, though, as Cody Bellinger and Seiya hit back-to-back singles to lead off the inning. Happ would strike out, and Cardinal manager Ali Marmol would pull Payente, bring in Chris Roycroft out of the pen. Runners at first and third, 1 out, and the first batter he faces is Nico Horner. He hits a short hopper towards the first base line, and the pitcher Roycroft picks it up, but then he drops the ball. Seiya is safe at third. Nico at first. Bellinger scores. We got a tie game. The next batter is Dansby Swanson. And just like Nico, another swinging bunt. Seiya scores. Dansby's out at first, but the Cubs take a 2-1 lead. So, hey, that's about as, 2 swinging bunts. We'll take it. That's about where we are at this point.
Whatever works, right? Whatever gets that run across the plate.
Shota just gave up a single in the second. That double would come around and score in the fourth, single in the sixth. The only time 2 Cardinals reached was in his final inning in the seventh. He led off the inning by hitting Nolan Arenado with a pitch, got the next out, but Ivan Herrera singled. And with the Cubs up 2-1, the Cardinals had the tying run at second, go-ahead run at first, but Shota got Dylan Carlson to fly out and struck out Brandon Donovan to end the threat. The Wrigley crowd is roaring in approval. Imanaga spins around, pumps his fist, screaming in joy. He is so fun to watch.
Yeah, he's really fun to watch.
Now, Dustin, we've seen this story all too often. Great job by the Cubs starter. Offense doesn't do too much. Bullpen has a razor-thin margin, but the Cubs flipped the script this time. In the bottom of the seventh, Tauchman and Bellinger single, and with 2 outs, Ian Happ homered to left center to give the Cubs some breathing room and a 5-1 lead. Dustin, what do you know? If you can sit there and add some insurance runs, it takes pressure off the bullpen and you can, rest easy, right?
Funny how that works, right? A comfortable win, a comfortable lead, if you will.
Yeah. And so you're taking a look here. A couple interesting tweets here. This one comes from our guy, Chris Kamka. Ian Happ made his MLB debut on May 13th, 2017. Since that day he made his debut, here are the leaders in home runs against the NL Central. Paul Goldschmidt with 85, Ian Happ, 84, and Eugenio Suarez, you remember him with the Reds, 82. So, hey, some good stats for Ian. And as we talked about, Tyson Miller has looked so good since coming over to the Cubs. He finished up the final 2 innings. The Cubs fly the W. And Dustin, you mentioned being able to relax a little bit. This is from our guy, Larry Hawley at Hawley Sports. Ian Happ's late homer gave the Cubs a somewhat comfortable victory. Their first by 3 runs since May 28th. That came in extra innings, right? Their last win by 3 runs in a 9-inning game was May 15th at Atlanta, Dustin.
So over a month. That was over a month ago, Crawly.
Over a month ago. I mean, every game has literally just been like 1-run games. A couple other notes, Dustin. The Cubs are 11-2 when Shota Imanaga starts. I mean, think about where they would be if we did not know Shota was going to be this good. We didn't know that.
No way.
I mean, he is
way better than advertised.
Right. But we talked about the Cubs and getting on base, but struggling with runners in scoring position. Saturday's game was no different. They were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position, 7 left on base. The other problem with the Cubs offense is the lack of slug, but Ian Happ's homer, that allowed the Cub to win without any drama. But again, the fact that we finally got a home run with runners on base, not a solo shot, a nice 3-run home run, it kind of masks the fact that you were still 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position.
Right. Yep.
Finally, game 3, Jamison Tyone versus Miles Michaelis, rubber match, chance to win a series versus an NL Central opponent. But the collapsing Cubs offense continues to disappoint. Got another quality start. I know we debate this, but this was Jamison Tyone, who went 6 innings. He gave up only 2 runs on 7 hits, 2 walks and 3 Ks. He was able to get himself out of some jams. But the frustrating thing, Dustin, in the second inning, he gives out a one out double to Brandon Crawford. And then Pedro Paz, we mentioned him on the game on Friday, 132 average. He hits a home run to put the Cardinals up 2-0.
I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's who's doing the damage is what gets you so ticked off.
Right. It's either walks or home runs or extra base hits to these guys that literally can't hit their weight. 132, right. Dustin, 132. Right.
It's crazy.
Second career home run, and his first came against the Cubs on Friday. But those were the only runs Tyone gave up, and Drew Smiley pitched 2 shutout innings, and Keegan Thompson's back. We'll talk about that later. He pitched a scoreless 9th. Offense was worthless. They had a few scoring chances. Michael Busch led off the bottom of the 3rd, and it looked like it might be a home run, at least extra bases, but Brendan Donovan made a great catch on a ball that was above the ivy, just below the baskets. 4th inning, down 2-0. The Cubs loaded the bases with 2 outs for Nico Horner. Nico hit one to shortstop Brandon Crawford, who threw to second for the force out. Dustin, to me, it looked like the Hap beat it. I never saw, I don't know, did you see a good replay that saw him out?
No. I thought it was a bad call.
Counsel challenge, New York upheld the call, the inning's over. Dustin, this isn't the first time. I've had a lot of questions about how the Cubs medical staff and the front office make certain determinations, right? Nico Horner gets hit by a Hunter Green fastball, and he has a fracture in his hand. And it clearly has affected his hitting, right? I didn't think it would.
Without a doubt.
I never thought, I thought he could field, and that was never the problem. But imagine, I broke this finger one time right here, and it hurt to put any pressure on it. Can you imagine like a bat hitting a ball, how much it has to hurt every single time? Since he got hit in the hand, Dustin, Nico is slashing 105, 150, 105. And what are they going to do? They're going to keep letting him do that until they put him on the IL. And then now you're going to waste another 10 days plus all the days you've wasted since he got injured.
Well, I think the problem is, Crawly, is what's the answer? Miles Mastrobuoni? I mean, seriously, what do they have?
You have David Bodie. You have Michael Bush. You have David Bodie. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm saying we're talking it out, right? That this is what we're trying to see if there's a reason. I mean, the other day he played a really nice shortstop when they gave Dansby Swanson the day off.
All I'm telling you, Dustin, is we already have a bunch of guys going over. We don't need any more.
Yeah, it's a good point. I just wonder if they're just his defense is so good in their mind that they're trying to trade it. But it's a good listen. This is a question that's got to be asked, right? It's got to be asked. How long? I mean, the player's going to say he wants to play. Right. But you, as the player's boss, has to determine. Not a great idea.
And look at the numbers. It's right there. I mean, it's 105, 150, 105. If you think Nico's a 105 hitter, then you haven't been watching him since he's come up. I mean, that's just what it is.
Yep.
The Cubs finally got on the board in the bottom of the seventh. Ian Happ, who had 2 of the Cubs' 5 hits, doubled, and Michael Bush would hit a 1-out single to make it a 2-1 ball game. Dansby Swanson walked. You got the tying run at second and the go-ahead run at first, but Miguel Amaya grounded out to end the threat. The Cubs also came up in the short in the 8th when they had a runner at second and no outs, but Morel and Bellinger would line out and say it would strike out to end the inning. In the 9th, they had a runner at second and 1 out. Michael Bush would strike out, and after Dansby Swanson drew a walk, now you got the go-ahead run at first. Patrick Wisdom comes in to hit one. He drives one to left that looks like it's going to be extra bases and at least tie the game. But Brendan Donovan makes another nice catch to end the game. Amazing how playing good defense can help you win ball games. Yep. And Dustin, I guess I'll just put this on repeat. Runners in scoring position. The Cubs were 2 for 10 with 8 men left on base. They lose another 1-run game. With that series lost, the Cubs have now lost 9 out of their last 10 series. The only win coming against the worst team in baseball, the Chicago White Sox, and even that was a struggle.
Right.
Since the beginning of May, the Cubs offense is in the bottom of nearly every statistical category. As Tony Andracki pointed out, the Cubs scored 6 runs in a 3-game series, went 3 for 23 with runners in scoring position, and only one of their hitters had an extra base hit. Yeah. Ian Happ had a home run on Saturday and a double on Sunday. Just when you think this offense can't get any worse, it sinks to new lows.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrendous. And again, I think they've got to keep shaking up the lineup every night. They got to try to do something. I mean, there's nobody that's doing anything consistently at all. Nothing. Nobody. It's really. I mean, I even wonder if they should move Cody Bellinger up to the top or something. Just try to get something going. Do something. Change it up. Change it up. And it's the Giants are coming in next, and that won't be an easy thing. We'll talk about that in just a minute. This is the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season 3. It's episode 49. The Cubs offense is collapsed. Oh, Crawly, so frustrating versus the Cardinals. Don't forget, guys, listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. You can also email us, flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us, that's right, on the 670 The Score YouTube page. In this segment, Crawly's talking to Mike Provenzale of Heritage Auctions that will be auctioning one of the most incredible pieces of game-used memorabilia, the jersey that Babe Ruth wore in 1932's World Series, which featured the Yankees and the Cubs, when he called this mythical home run at Wrigley Field, the called shot.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, I am happy to have on Mike Provenzale from Heritage Auction Sports. Mike, how you doing today?
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, the reason I wanted to have you on is I am a memorabilia collector. Anyone that knows me knows I get really nutty about things. And Heritage Auction Sports is a great place to kind of add to your memorabilia collection. You just came across a piece of memorabilia. I don't think it's going to be in my budget, Mike.
Mine neither, for sure.
So you came across Heritage Auction Sports, came across probably one of, would you say for you, as far as Heritage Auction, where would you rank your most recent find as far as most incredible pieces you've ever come across?
I would have to put this at number one. It's Babe Ruth's 1932 World Series called shot game-worn jersey. And we've seen a lot of incredible items here at Heritage. I've been here 18 years. And you have to put this one on the top just for it checks all the boxes as far as significance, importance, and, of course, value.
So for people that aren't aware, the Cubs were not always the lovable losers. When you talk about the first half of the 20th century, they were the equivalent of what you would consider the Yankees, winning the pennant every year, back-to-back World Series, 1907, 1908. And unfortunately, they just run into a bunch of buzzsaws of good teams and didn't win the World Series after 1908. But they were in it year after year. I think one time there was a streak where they were in it like every third year. It was unbelievable. But as you mentioned, the 1932 World Series is probably considered, the most talked about controversial event in baseball history. I would say I don't think it's hyperbole there to say it's probably one of the most famous moments in baseball history.
Unquestionably, and it's Babe Ruth's most famous moment. He has some of the most legendary moments in sports history, some of the most celebrated, but this is number one. It's one everyone knows. I know things have crossed the void when my wife has heard of them. She is not a sports fan at all. And a lot of the things I talk about with her, it's just a blank stare. But this is one she knew and knew how important it was. And the interesting thing about it is it's really Ruth's last great moment as well. 1932 was his last World Series appearance. It was really his last great season. And his career kind of tailed off after that. And it's a moment that's gone from being talked about to being important to now it's reached mythological status.
Absolutely. And for people that aren't aware, the Cubs and Yankees in 1930, the Cubs had legendary Hall of Fame manager Joe McCarthy, and they fired him in 1930 despite winning the NL pennant the previous season, which to me is mind-blowing. And so there was some bad blood between the Cubs and Yankees before they get to the World Series. A lot of chirping, a lot of talking. And, they're yelling at each other from the dugouts, game 1 and 2. That's in New York, Yankee Stadium. And then they come to Wrigley Field for game 3. Legendary Cubs pitcher Charlie Root is on the mound. And the game is tied 4-4. Now, Babe Ruth had already hit a home run, right? And I want to say Lou Gehrig also hit a home run before the called shot happened. So it's 4-4. It's a tie game. And then this is where things kind of get a little bit nuts, right? Is
correct.
What ends up happening here, it just starts to get wild, right?
So there was a lot of bad blood, as you said. There was the McCarthy issue. Also, there was a player on the Yankees who got cut mid-season. The Cubs picked him up and then decided not to pay him his World Series bonus, or not the full amount, which the Yankees came to his defense, and Ruth, even in the press, called the Cubs cheap for that. So especially in that era, if you're insulting the executives and higher levels of a team, that's really going to get things heated. But yeah, the fans were really into it. They were down 0-2 in the series. Ruth and the Yankees are coming to town. In fact, in that famous painting of the called shot that you just showed at the bottom, you can see there's some items on the field, some bottles and fruit, and that's because fans were throwing things onto the field at the Yankees. And when Ruth was at bat, the Cubs dugout was really letting him have it, and he was giving it right back to them. So the hotly debated thing is, did Ruth call his shot? There's no real great video or photography of it. It's very hard to tell. The video that exists, the angle's difficult to tell. The key thing isn't, did he call his shot or did he not? It's that, given the importance of the moment, how heated everyone was, the passions were at a crescendo. Ruth wanted to hit a home run at that moment to silence everyone, and he did on that pitch. Crushed it to center field, one of the longest home runs in Wrigley history, the longest at the time. And then even when Ruth is rounding the bases, he's chirping at the Cubs dugout. And as he comes around third, he's looking at them, he's pointing at them. So it was this huge moment. Immediately in the stadium, people were asking, did he call his shot? There were stories about it right after the game. Ruth, in true Ruth fashion, really leaned into it and did not deny it. He didn't come straight out and say he did. He would later in his life. He's someone who liked to embellish and add to his own mystique, and he certainly did with this moment. But baseball was the talk of the whole world in that era, and you couldn't have a bigger moment and a bigger event than that.
And so, there are, like you said, it's like the Zapruder film from JFK. I mean, like everybody's analyzed it every which way. The question, was he pointing at the Cubs dugout? Was he pointing at the bleachers because the bleacher bums were letting him have it? Was he signaling 1 and then 2 for how many strikes there were? There's all sorts of things. But
he could have been pointing at Ruth, the pitcher. It's hard to see. And that's the best image of it right there. And from that angle, you can't tell. If it was a little more behind home plate, we'd have a better angle on it. But part of it is that's why it's become so talked about and become lore, is because there is some mystery to it. And a lot of players disputed it. Lou Gehrig said he did it. And Lou Gehrig is considered one of the most reputable and great character guys in Major League Baseball history. And also, him and Ruth didn't really get along. So it's not like he would want to defend Ruth, although Gehrig was a great teammate. But Gehrig has a quote where he says he pointed to the outfield, and then that big ape did exactly what he said. So he even took a shot at Ruth in his comments, but did confirm that's what happened. And Gehrig was right there to see it. So that definitely lends some credibility to the claim, but it's just one of those moments that has lived on and will live on in baseball history forever. And the backstory often adds so much to any piece of memorabilia. Like you, I lean more into the memorabilia side, and my favorite items are the things that were on the players, in their hands, in the arena with them. I love that history and that personality to it. And when you can add such an epic story to it, that's what really makes this jersey great. I mean, a big part of collecting, especially at that level, is bragging and talking about what you have and being able, when you show it to people, to tell the story of the event. And that's why this is going to become the most valuable sports item that's ever sold.
So here's a picture, and in this picture, this is the moment after Ruth hits, or after he crosses the plate after hitting the home run. Like you mentioned, Lou Gehrig, about as honest a guy as can be. You have Gabby Hartnett, Hall of Famer, best Cubs catcher in history. And so, like you said, controversy because Gehrig said it happened. Ruth, of course, would not deny it. Pat Piper, who was the Cubs PA announcer, and back then he wasn't in the press box. He was on the field, and he had a big microphone. He says it happened. On the flip side, Gabby Hartnett said no way, and Charlie Root said anybody that knows me knows that if anybody would have pointed after the first time, he said I would have put him on his rear end. So that's again part of the debate. And like you said, one of the longest home runs at the time, there was a flagpole at Wrigley Field, and this is facing towards Sheffield, like right center. And so estimates go anywhere from like 440 to 480. Who knows how long it was, but it was amazing. So this is right here from your website, Heritage Auctions. This is the jersey right here. If you're watching on 670 The Score YouTube channel. So let me ask you, Mike, how did you come across such an item?
So it's been in the collection of one collector for over 20 years. And he paid just under $1 million for it in the early aughts and has held on to it. He did a lot of work as far as the authentication himself. Things have changed a lot in technology wise as far as authentication. So we've done some more, but he went as far as to have a textile conservatory study the fabric, and they've provided a 20-page report that the fabric is from the era. So he knew what he had and he worked hard on it. We were able to have My Gray photo match it. They are one of the most discerning photo matching companies. They matched it to a photo of Ruth in the dugout during that game 3. And we just got word this week. We also submitted it to PSA for photo matching. They recently jumped into the photo matching game, and they likewise have matched it to a photo from game 3 of the World Series. So it has the dual photo matching LOAs from 2 of the top services. So that really puts it over the top. The great thing about photo matching is that it can let the bidders see for themselves. It's not like autograph authentication where you're trusting the opinion and the expertise of an authenticator. Photo matching is something where you can look at it yourself and draw your own conclusions. And they're really great matches, very clear, especially considering the era and the photography of the era. And, we've had a lot of moments at Heritage where things come in and it just stops down the whole office and everybody's got to take a look at it. When the 52 Topps mantle and a 9.5 came in, same thing. We sold the only known Jackie Robinson game-worn rookie jersey, same thing. But this is one where it stopped down the whole company, essentially. It sent shockwaves through the whole company. We have 55 different departments here, so we see the best of everything from coins, comics, fine arts, jewelry, and everybody wanted to get a look at it. And we're very happy that we are going to be taking the Ruth jersey and other highlights from that August Platinum auction on tour this summer. So the important thing to us is that, like you said, most people cannot afford a $30 million jersey, myself included. But seeing it is an incredible experience. So we're going to give as many fans and collectors the opportunity to see it in person as possible this summer.
Oh my God. Like you said, there's something about it. I usually go to all the autograph shows and the National and the Chicago Sports Spectacular and go down the list. And I remember even when my kids were little, there was a Babe Ruth bat and they had like the little glove thing on there so you wouldn't, touch it like hands on, but just holding the bat that the Bambino had. And I think this piece is truly amazing for Cubs fans because it is a part of Cub lore. Cubs in the World Series against the Yankees at Wrigley Field. It's an item, like you said, that I think eclipses. I can't even think of any sports item in any sports that has the mythology of this piece right here. You said it's going to be traveling around. Where can fans go to find out where this jersey is going to be?
All right, so we are going to have it and highlights from the whole auction on display in our home office here in Dallas, and then it is going to go to the National Sports Collectors Convention in Cleveland. Then it is going to go to our office in Palm Beach, Florida, and then it will be going to our office in New York City on Park Avenue, and then it will be going to the Fanatics Fan Fest show. And for those of you in Chicago, we are going to make a stop in Chicago with it. We will be announcing when and where next week.
Oh, that's what we call a teaser in the biz, my friend.
Right.
Well, all I can tell you is that Heritage Auction always has just great stuff on there, and not everything is going to be $30 million. If you're a Cub fan and maybe you're looking for a baseball card or a ball or a game used item, great place to go. And again, it's telling the story. It literally is showing somebody and being like, yeah, this is a story, and there's no greater story in all of sports than this. Mike, thank you so much for jumping on. I appreciate it. And we will be looking forward to the big reveal when this jersey will be in Chicago.
Thanks for having me on, and I'll make sure to let you know about that announcement so you can bring in all your fans. We want everybody in Chicago to see it as well.
Sounds great, Mike. Take care.
You too.
This is season 3. It's episode 49 of the Fly the W670 podcast. The Cubs offense collapses versus the Cardinals. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. Email us, flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch Crawly and I on the 670 The Score YouTube page. Do we really want to share the standings, Crawly? Oh,
there they are. Woo.
The last place Chicago Cubs, 1/2 a game behind the Pittsburgh Pirates and 8.5 back of the Brewers, who are 42-29 overall.
Yep, the Cubs did Milwaukee a favor or St. Louis a favor as they catapult to second with they're now at 500, 35-35. Cincinnati is at 34-37, Pittsburgh 34-37, and the Cubs at last place. Like you said, it's a disheartening situation. That's all I'll say.
Yep. Another sad situation too. The Cubs lost a former member of their coaching staff.
Yeah, he was a former player and former hitting coach. He played for the Mike Brumley passed away on Sunday. He played for the Cubs in 1987, and he was a hitting coach for the Cubs in 2014. So prayers go out to his family and loved ones.
And we talked about Jordan Wicks earlier, so he obviously came back for a second, but now he's going to be leaving, we would assume.
A right oblique strain. Testing revealed it's a grade 2 sprain, so we'll see how he recovers from that. Keegan Thompson was recalled from Iowa. At least we got some better news. Some names we haven't heard in a long time. Caleb Killian, Julian Merriweather, and Yency Almonte all threw BP sessions this weekend. Almonte threw live BP, so he was facing hitters, and he has now returned to Chicago for next steps. So we'll see where he would get a rehab assignment.
Also, we should bring it up. Ben Brown. What do you think? How long is Ben Brown going to be out?
Boy, this is just a bizarre injury for a pitcher, so I have no clue. I mean, I was watching that very carefully because there was a couple moves that could have potentially happened. There's 2 guys in Iowa right now. Ethan Roberts, friend of the pod. We had him on the Fly the W podcast, and Carl Edwards Jr., former World Series champ. Both of them had opt-outs in their minor league deals that came up this weekend. So the Cubs either had to put them on the 40-man or they could opt out and become free agents. And
why is Carl Edwards not getting a shot? I just don't get it.
Yeah. So a couple different things here, though, is my thought. I was watching to see if they would put Ben Brown on the 60-day IL. If you put someone on the 60-day IL, they don't count against your 40-man roster. They did not do that.
Well, I hope they don't do that. Let's hope that's not going to happen.
That was just something I was watching. So we don't know when he'll be back, but the fact that he wasn't put on the 60-day IL means it maybe not as serious hope as we think. You're asking about Carl Edwards. Ethan Roberts, great story. We had him on the podcast. I love this guy. He's been pitching really well at Iowa, and so they added him to the 40-man roster. So he's still in Iowa, but he's on the 40-man roster, so now he can be called up at any time. And they DFA'd Jose Cuas. Remember, the Cubs traded Nelson Velasquez for Cuas before the trade deadline. Cubs did not win that trade. I'll tell you that much.
No.
Ethan Roberts, great story. That road for recovery from Tommy John. The Cubs DFA'd him, but then he was re-signed by the Cubs, and then he was pitching well in Iowa. When you ask about Carl Edwards has been looking like, if you just look at ERA, looks okay, but if you look at the peripherals, like how far, how hard he's throwing as far as walks, those type of things, It's been okay. I don't know if it would play at the major league level. I think Ethan Roberts right now could come up and be better than some of the relievers the Cubs have. I don't know if you would say the same thing about Carl Edwards, and the whole thing has to do is who are you going to DFA? That would, if you want to DFA Colton Brewer or something, I just don't know if they have the faith that Carl Edwards would be worth a 40-man roster spot. That is a really valuable thing, and I just don't think the Cubs believe he has it.
All right, let's get the listeners ready for Cubs Giants starting Monday night.
Yeah, last season the Giants had a disappointing season. They finished with a record of 79-83, fourth in the NL West. Gabe Kapler was let go with 3 games left in the season. That was kind of weird to me. The Cubs dominated the Giants last season. They won the season series 5-1. They took 2 out of 3 in San Francisco in June. I don't know if you remember, Kyle Hendricks pitched 8 2/3 innings of no-hit ball before Mitch Haniger doubled to end the no-hit bid. The Cubs would sweep the Giants at Wrigley in the beginning of September, probably the last happy moment we had in September. It looked like the Cubs would be heading to the postseason. They were rolling, but then, Dustin, they lost 6 of their next 7 series to fall out of playoff contention. The Giants did make some moves during the offseason, and free agents actually took their money. What do you know? Former Cub Jorge Soler signed with the Giants. They signed Korean superstar Jung-Ho Lee. They signed the reigning Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell and Gold Glove third baseman Matt Chapman, who the Cubs were kicking the tires on. They let third baseman J.D. Davis walk. He went to Oakland. Starting pitcher Sean Manaea moved on, as did DH and former Cub Jock Peterson. But Dustin, like the Cubs, the Giants have had a disappointing start to the 2024 season. Jung-Ho Lee, who we talked about, Korean superstar, separated his shoulder. He's out for the year. Blake Snell is 0-3 with an ERA over 9 and is on the IL with a groin injury. Matt Chapman, like all the Boris holdouts, and I'll put Cody Bellinger in that category. Chapman, Bellinger, Jordan Montgomery, all these guys, they're just not really, I don't know how much the spring training really affected them, but none of them are really doing that much. The Giants are 35-37. They're 4th place in the NL, 6-4 in their last 10 games, but they just lost a series to the LA Angels.
All right, now it's time for the tail of the tape, and I'm guessing the Cubs offense is going to be right at the bottom of that.
Yeah, I added a category this time just because we always talk about runners in scoring position, so I'm going to throw that in there. When we talk about batting average, the Giants have the edge. They are hitting 248, 12th in baseball, while the Cubs are hitting 226, 27th in baseball. Only 3 teams have a worse batting average than the Cubs. Slug, the Giants have the advantage. They are slugging 385, 17th in baseball, while the Cubs are slugging 364, 25th in baseball. And I added the runners in scoring position, the edge again to the Giants. They are hitting 241 with runners in scoring position, 22nd in baseball, while the Cubs are hitting a measly 212. They are 28th in all of baseball, with only the White Sox and Oakland A's worse with runners in scoring position. As far as starting pitching, the Cubs do have the edge on that one. That's the only thing.
That's the one thing they got going for them. That's it.
347 ERA for their starting pitcher, 6th in baseball, while the Giants are 454, 23rd in all of baseball. Reliever ERA goes to the Giants. They are 420. That's 19th in baseball, while the Cubs are 439, 23rd. And then again, defense, the Giants have the advantage. They have 7 defensive runs saved, 15th in all of baseball, while the Cubs are at negative 12 runs saved, 23rd in all of baseball. So definitely a struggle.
All right, let's get to the pitching probables. Game number 1. We have Javier Assad pitching this one.
Yeah, Javier Assad's 4-2 with the 281 ERA in 14 games started, 72 strikeouts and 73.2 innings pitched. As we've talked about lately, Dustin, on May 31st against Cincinnati, he gave up 2 runs in 5.1 innings. Again, against Cincinnati on June 6th, he gave up 5 runs in 5.2 innings. And against Tampa Bay, he gave up 2 runs, 5 hits in 4.2 innings, but just a lot of traffic and a lot of runners are coming around to score. So he hasn't looked as good as he initially did to start the season. So hopefully he can get back on track against the Giants. For the Giants, they have Jordan Hicks going. I keep wanting to say Wicks, so I was careful on that one.
Right.
You remember Jordan Hicks from the Cardinals. He was a stud reliever, but he wanted to be a starter, and that's what he is doing with the Giants. And as you can expect, he's not really going deep in games, especially in May and June. He really doesn't get past 5 innings very much, if at all. In his last 3 starts, he's gone past 5 innings once. On May 31st against the Yankees, he went 5.1 innings, gave up 4 runs on 7 hits. Against Arizona on June 5th, he went 3.2 innings, gave up 2 runs on 6 hits, 4 walks, and 7 Ks. So threw a hell of a lot of pitches. And then against the Astros on June 11th, he only went 4.2 innings pitched, gave up 3 runs, 5 hits. So he's a guy that you can definitely say to yourself, okay, you can get him out of the game quickly.
So game number 2, Justin Steele, Logan Webb. That's a pretty good pitching matchup.
Yeah, and I'll be at the game on Tuesday night. So I've gotten a couple good starts from, watching Justin Steele. It's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, as we've talked about, as good as Justin has been, especially lately, he literally has 1 loss in his last 3 games, and he's given up a total of 2 runs in those 3 games. I mean, think about that.
He's had 0 support, right? 0.
0 against the Reds. He went on June 1st. He gave up 1 run. That was that monsoon game in 5 innings. The next start against the Reds, he went 7 innings and gave up 1 run and took the loss. And then in against Tampa Bay, he went 6 innings, gave up 3 hits, no run, and got a no decision. So, I mean, he has really been the Cubs, hard luck pitcher as far as just getting 0 run support.
Yeah.
Logan Webb is, he's a righty. He is 6-5 on the year with a 3.02 ERA and 15 games started, 79 strikeouts versus 92 innings pitched. So he's not going to blow you away with strikeouts all that much, but he has been going deep in games lately. On June 1st against the Yankees, he went 7 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, and he took the loss on that one. Against the Rangers, though, on June 7th, he went 7 innings and only gave up 2 runs, and that's a good hitting Rangers team. And then on his last start against the Astros on June 12th, he went 6 innings, gave up 3 earned runs on 7 hits. So Logan Webb looking pretty good, even though he's looking like a 500 pitcher and the ERA is at 3.02. He's looked a lot better as of late.
And game number 3, Kyle Hendricks on the bump.
What can you say about Kyle Hendricks? Looked good against the Cardinals. Obviously, he is 0-4, but he brought that ERA down to 8.20. He started 7 games so far this year. But that was, he hasn't started a game in a very long time since he lost the last start that I think that he made was on May 17th before he was moved to the pen. He was struggling. But again, against the Cardinals, a team he's done really well against historically, he went 4.1 innings and gave up 2 hits and 0 earned runs. So hopefully that's a step forward, and we'll see what happens against the Giants. We need him to step up. We need Kyle Hendricks to step up if there's ever a time to, with Brown and Wicks down.
Yep. Got to have it. Absolutely have to have it.
All righty. And then right now it's saying TBD for the Wednesday start. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make a prediction on this one. We're going to say Spencer Howard gets the start. He is a 2nd-round pick out of the Phillies in 2017. He's only started 2 games. He's got a 4.02 ERA. He's only pitched in 15 innings so far this year. But as far as it goes, he started a game. His first game he started was on June 8th against the Rangers. He went 4.2 innings pitched and gave up 1 earned run. And then against the Angels, he struggled mightily. He gave up 4 earned runs in 2.1 innings pitched, 7 hits. So he's 4 walks. And so he's a guy that really is taking a spot start right now. He's not normally in the rotation. He was a non-roster invitee and he was in AAA. So, not a guy that's dominant. So there's no reason that the Cubs can't tag this guy, but we've said that about Taj Bradley and all these other Andre Payente and all these other guys.
Of course.
That the Cubs should be able to win this one, but and then
the old shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yeah. Right. All right. I know our next thing we call hot and not, but Crawly, we may have to change this because there is nobody hot on the Cubs right now on offense. Not one person.
Well, you got Michael Busch.
What, lukewarm? I don't know about hot though. I mean, lukewarm maybe.
He's 6 for his last 15 with an RBI, so he's slashing 400, 438, 400. That's not bad.
No, for this Cubs team, it's great. But yeah,
Cody Bellinger 7 for his last 24. He's 292. Then we get into the cold. We talked about Nico Horner, but again,
rest of the team,
especially Christopher Morel 125, Nico Horner 105, Miguel Amaya 0.091, Dansby Swanson 0.059. I saw a tweet the other day, Dustin. At this point, in the same exact amount of games in their career, Jason Hayward had a better average and more hits than Dansby Swanson at this point with the same amount of games.
Wow, that's a terrible stat to share with us, Crawly. Bringing down the mood, man. You're bringing down the mood.
I'm killing the vibe.
If it was already a bad, not a great mood, you're bringing it down. All right, so let's tell everybody who to watch out for on the Giants.
I'm going to tell you, I'm a little bit nervous here because the Giants got some guys that are hitting.
Look who's on that list, Crawly. The guy that I wanted to be the Cubs DH, Jorge Soler.
Yep. Austin Slater, right fielder, 6 for his last 14 with a home run and 4 RBIs. He's hitting 429, 529, 643. Jorge Soler, 6 for his last 15. So that's the thing. Jorge can go on these hot and not streaks. He's on a hot one right now. 1 home run, 4 RBIs. He's slashing 400, 571, 667. And then you got guys that are hitting in the 300s over the last week, like Heliot Ramos, their left fielder, Brett Wisely, their shortstop. So they got some guys hitting. As far as they're not, Matt Chapman is 3 for his last 19 with 2 RBIs. He's slashing 158, 273, 211. And Michael Conforto's 2 for his last 14. And Wilmer Flores, their first baseman, is 2 for his last 15. So we'll see what happens here.
I guess we'll see what happens, right? All right, it's prediction time, and these have not been going very well for me lately, or for you necessarily, but worse for me than you. They're going to win a game, okay? They're going to win. They're going to win a game over the next 3 days. That I will promise. Which one? Not quite sure, but they're going to win one. They're not going to get swept.
So you got the Giants taking this series.
Yes, unfortunately. I mean, right? How do you not?
Dustin, I am going to go against what I said last episode when I said I'm not going to pick the Cubs until they show me something. I'm going to. This is God. I'm such a sucker. I like what Justin Steele's done. I know it's going to be hard against Logan Webb. Kyle Hendricks versus Spencer Howard. I'm going to say pound the over on that game. I think there's going to be over 9 runs scored in that game.
All right.
And I don't know what Javier Assad's going to do, but Jordan Hicks hasn't blown my mind. I think we're not catching any of their really good pitchers. So I'm going to go with the Cubs taking 2 out of 3.
All right. You got 2 out of 3. I got them winning 1. I'm just not sure which one it is. And that overcall again, are the Giants scoring 9 runs? Because I don't know that the Cubs are going to score more than 3. They'd have to really bust out to do that, Crawly.
I just got a feeling against Spencer Howard. I mean, if you can't do against Spencer Howard, then just DFA everybody and bring up AAA because I'm officially done if they can't beat Spencer Howard.
All right, that's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Email us, flythew670@gmail.com, and you can watch us, that's right, by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, enjoy your week and enjoy going to the game on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I hope to see some of our listeners out there. We're going to be cheering. This isn't over yet. Again, it's dark right now, but just we got a chance still, Cub fans. Don't give up. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs.